good afternoon, and welcome to GoLocal Live in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. Thanks so much for joining us on this Monday, February 5th. Hopefully you're not still too sad about the Patriots' loss, but good news is we have some fun things to talk about today on GoLocal Live. We're going to talk about something a little bit more fun today to start off the show. I'd like to say hello and welcome to Dante Bellini. He is Executive Vice President at RDW Group. Dante, hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Molly. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. So we're going to hopefully brighten everybody's spirits today. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl ads, the commercials. So we're going to forget about the game because I'm sure a lot of people are still moping around today.
I have 3 words for them.
What's that?
Get over it.
Get over it, right? Do your job today, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the commercials, some of the trends that happened yesterday, but let's start off by talking about the exorbitant amount of money that was spent on these advertisements. I read that NBC charged right around $5 million for 30-second spots. Talk to me a little bit about the amount of money that goes into producing these ads.
So for 30-second increments, it's $5 million, and it goes up from there. Many of the spots that were in the game yesterday were 60, 90. There was one 120.
Wow.
So some of the more mature, ubiquitous advertisers spent upwards of 10, 15, $20 million on that one game. And that's before you start talking about creative and production and then the whole aftermarket of the social engagement.
So let's talk a little bit about that, the social engagement, because you and I were kind of emailing back and forth yesterday saying, okay, look what's going on here. And you said a lot of these companies release their advertisements even before Sunday to get their maximum value. Talk to me about that. And then are we going to continue to see these ads played over and over again, or is it all about the hype beforehand?
Yeah. Well, the commercial represents one small piece of it, a large piece because it's 100 million viewers. But in terms of the entire cycle, it's just one piece. So they want to push people to their online platforms. They want them to engage with the brand. They want to convert them to buyers, users, whatever it may be. And you know, there's as you guys know here, there's a great back market of analytics and metrics that go into it. They try to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then they take it from there. Do they tweak? Did they do something new? Did they switch horses? So it's a analytic-driven operation these days. It's
really fun to talk about and to read about and to think about, in my opinion, and it's not, the whole advertising game isn't necessarily my business, but it's fun when you start looking into it and thinking about and reading about. So let's get into the actual commercials themselves. Let's talk about kind of what hit the mark and what missed, and then we can kind of almost talk about those analytics side of things. Let's talk about the ones that hit the mark. How about you start off with your favorite? Okay, well, I think the ones that hit the mark in terms of a good use of the money were things like M&M, E-Trade, Alexa, Amazon's Alexa, and the Tide series. I thought those in particular really resonated with people on one level. People liked them, but also they were brand recognizable and memorable. I think that's so important too, because you might have seen these commercials and this happens in years past too, where you're like, what was that for? I don't even know what that commercial was for. Right. What product were they talking about? I have no idea what happened. And then what is the point? What were some ones that you thought totally just, it wasn't worth the time, the money, it wasn't worth people even looking at? What totally missed the mark?
Well, the Dodge Ram Martin Luther King speech spot, certainly. The Groupon spot, I thought, was really off the mark in terms of just good taste. And I think that the Keanu Reeves spot for Squarespace was just terrible. They spent $5 million on a spot that people are either going to forget about, or they're going to say, oh, that was just Keanu. So, what did it serve? Are people running to the websites today to make websites by Squarespace? I don't think.
Yeah, I had no idea what that was. I went, oh, look, it's Keanu Reeves. What's he doing?
Right.
And then
what was he doing?
I don't know. He was standing up on a motorcycle. And that was it.
And I think the other interesting phenomena this year was that you saw funny ads, and you saw inspirational anthem style ads.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that had to do with people are just so fatigued with the big issues, the issues that are out there every day dividing us, and they just don't want to think about it, talk about it. They wanted to enjoy the game. And I think that by and large the ad community tapped into that. Whether they did it well or not is a different story, but I didn't feel like I got preached to a lot last night.
Okay, so let's kind of continue with that conversation, because that's one I did want to look into. A lot of times, whether or not we want to have the conversation or not, you mentioned that whether it's a social justice movement, I was looking to see if there would be any Me Too movement type discussions being had within advertisements. A lot of people thinking, we need maybe a break from this in the commercials or not. Did you see any advertisements that you thought connected, whether it was social justice, or maybe just related to a cause that did it well?
I think that when we talk about that kind of stuff, it's all about the authenticity. It's all about being real and genuine. And I think that the spot that was on target and resonated with me anyway was the Budweiser water spot, because it was real. They can really lay claim to that. They actually did it. No one asked them to do it. They did it. And creatively, they used just a guy in a factory, and you can see the pride that he brought to both the job and then back at home. It was a knowing glance with his wife. It was really well done, and no one's going to hate Budweiser today. That is the true mark of, I think, those kinds of ads.
I think so too. That did hit home, and I think people probably like when a company does well or brings up a cause, but no one wants to see Pepsi and Kendall Jenner. Like, that's when it doesn't go right. So how does an advertisement do something right? Where do you find that balance?
There's a delicate balance, and that's a very good point, Molly. You have to navigate that braggadocio part. You can't be pounding your chest that we're great and that we did this, and at the same time you don't want to pander. So I thought that it was a nice balance of being able to say, hey, this is what we did for these disasters, and we just want you to know that we did it, and we're proud to have done it. So that, to me, reeked of being very, very authentic.
What did you think of I think it was the Hyundai commercial, where the people went in, they pulled their keys, and then they played the message? It was kind of weird, but then once I saw what was happening, I got pretty emotional, to be honest with you.
Right, and we're seeing it with perspective.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, those kinds of live demonstration ads, they never do anything for me.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did is great, but again, you gotta look at it in the context of where it is. It's in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Is it gonna work in the Super Bowl? It may work independently of it, but not necessarily in that environment. I counter that with the Kia ad with Aerosmith, what's his name?
Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler.
Yeah, there we go.
Which a lot of people hated. I happen to like, because I think that creatively it was brilliant. Reversing time, and it's something that we all want to do. And to have such an unlikely hero as him was great, and the song obviously fits perfectly. But people remembered that. The key is, will they remember a Kia?
That's true, because I didn't know that was a Kia one.
Right.
I thought it was at first I'm like, I don't get this, I don't like it, and then once you got out, I thought it was really good.
And when you talk about hooking into the culture, and we talked about David Harbour from Stranger Things. Everyone loves Stranger Things these days. Everyone likes the sort of gruff hero that he is in that, and he sort of plays that guy, but in a self-effacing way in these. And the brilliance of that is that you never know if the spot that you're watching subsequently is actually a Tide spot. So that's the brilliance of the strategy.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about those Tide ads as we move away maybe from the issue type ads, and talk a little bit about the series, because a lot of people were talking about Tide. A lot of people thought that was so well done. Was this the right place to do that? Because most people are going to tune in the entire game. And whereas maybe if you're watching a show or a series of shows, I don't really know a place where a series like that would work well.
Yeah, well, Bud Light often does that. I mean, in Super Bowl. But, there's 100 million viewers, and Tide is one of those ubiquitous both brands and products. So it's, they're out there trying to dispel a lot of the bad stuff that's been happening with Tide lately.
Oh, yeah.
And
no kidding.
And they are trying to sell boxes and jars of detergent. But at the same, so they're trying to do two things here. And they did it brilliantly. Like, I don't know how long, this has been in the can, or whether it's a rather recent phenomena, but it is, for a company like Tide that has the sort of budget that can accommodate this. This is 100 million people. This is a third of the country. And I think they did a masterful job of saying, we're funny, we're smart, and we make detergent. So, so it's the best of all worlds for them. And the amount of buzz that's happening today across the country and perhaps the world is going to pay big dividends for them.
Right.
When you walk down that aisle, you're going to see Tide. You're going to think of those commercials. It's just going to happen.
Do you think that really translate into, though, people saying, oh, that guy did those commercials, I'm going to buy it?
Yep.
Okay.
In this case, yes.
It works?
In this case, absolutely.
In this case, it works.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And we were talking, too, just a moment ago, that there was another detergent commercial, which we're like, what's the thing with laundry detergent?
Right.
In the Super Bowl.
I saw it, but I can't remember it.
Yeah. The guy came out of the TV.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird.
It was a P name. So that's,
Yeah.
if a guy that critiques ads can't remember it.
It wasn't worth it.
Right.
It wasn't worth the money.
So he's out looking for a job with the Dodge Ram guy today.
Oh, no. That guy's no longer producing Super Bowl commercials.
Right.
Let's talk. The other thing that you may have noticed when you were watching the Super Bowl and therefore the commercials, there were a lot of celebrities this year. Let's talk a little bit about that. Something else that I read was, if you may have noticed, there were a lot of male celebrities. Something I read in an AP article where it was to the ratio, if you were paying attention, a ratio of 2 to 1 male celebrities versus female celebrities in the role, in the lead role of the commercials, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if you want to get too into that or what, but a lot of celebrities this year. Do celebrities, what does that mean to you if you're trying to sell it to a product?
I don't know what it means, truthfully. The creative sort of lent itself, perhaps, for males. Super Bowl is traditionally thought about as a male thing, which I completely disagree with, because I think the last statistics that I saw, it's almost evenly split. It's almost 50-50 men and women. So I don't really know. It's interesting. That would be an interesting study of some sort.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too. What I also thought was interesting this year was that we didn't see kind of the crude humor. We didn't see the sex sells as much this year.
You saw one crude humor.
Yeah, but I don't think it was too bad.
Well, getting hit in the groin with the football.
Yeah, that's
a gag.
True.
It's a crude gag. It's effective, but it
It wasn't like straight up in your face though.
No.
It wasn't as. And the majority of the commercials weren't like that. Like, you watch those shows where you see past Super Bowl commercials and you're like, wow, it's come a long way. Yeah. Talk about that in terms of trends. Is it because we've had, kind of an intense year with a lot of stuff going on that, maybe people who are producing these ads kind of stepped away from it and thought, okay, there's a lot going on. We need to take a step back.
Well, I maintain what I said earlier, that I think that there's a fatigue in general. But I also think that, it's ironic. We're in a golden age of television again. There's so much great content out there. But yet, I'm not so sure that the Super Bowl commercials, which is the showcase of great commercials, is following suit here. I don't think that we've had a great collection of commercials in maybe 5-6 years. I go all the way back to the very first FedEx spot, which you won't remember, but Josh may, certainly. And that is, it's color bars for 27 seconds. And the last 3 seconds is we didn't get the spot because they didn't send it FedEx.
Oh,
right?
That's great.
So I think that there's a lot of just mediocrity out there at very big budgets. You're talking about $5 million for space. You're talking 3, 4, 5, 10 million for production. The cost of the celebrity. It's big money, but I don't think we're getting the quality that we really should, given those numbers.
Do celebrities make the difference? Do celebrities sell? Do you have to have a celebrity to sell your product? Because some of the best ones that people are talking about, best commercials, it's all celebrity.
There's not, the reason the M&M spot works is because it's Danny DeVito, right? The reason that the Tide spot works, maybe because of David Harbour. It could have been another person like him, but there are so many others that are just celebrity for the sake of celebrity in the spot. That, it's just, hey, look who we got representing us. And that's really not the basis by which a celebrity should be selected.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes people remember because it's a celebrity, and sometimes people didn't.
Yeah.
I thought, so your favorite was?
It's so hard, but I think the E-Trade really was, and I'll use the line again, how can you not like a spot that has DJ Nana in it?
I love DJ Nana. I like that one. I really liked the Doritos Mountain Dew commercial because I like lip sync battles. 2, how do you not like Morgan Freeman? And I also really like Game of Thrones. So I thought the play of the fire and ice was really good. And I love Peter Dinklage. So I like that use of celebrity. But you didn't love it.
No, and I think that there's a risk inherent in that because there's 2 kinds of people in the world. Those that love Game of Thrones and those who hate Game of Thrones.
And you don't like Game of Thrones.
So it's a risk for them, and maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I saw a lot of chatter last night. Morgan Freeman must need money. That's not the kind of stuff you want out there.
Because he's doing a Mountain Dew ad.
Right. But in terms of character, it's a departure from his character, and that's the shock value of it.
Because he's lip syncing to Missy Elliott, which was so fun.
Right.
And you're like, ugh.
Horrible, just horrible. Although I did like, when you talk about celebrities, there were 2 Chris Pratt spots.
Those were good.
The audition one was absolutely brilliant. It was just great because when you get a guy like him who's Mr. Perfect, having flaws and failures, people love that.
I like that one too. Plus he's from Federal Way, Washington, so that's close to home for me.
And that makes it good.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's standing in line at an audition, and I thought that was funny. The other one that a lot of people talked about, which I thought was good, was the Amazon. The Amazon Alexa loses her voice, but not everybody. My husband was like, I didn't recognize some of those celebrities. So does it matter who you're picking and catering to?
Well, it's of the culture, right?
Yeah.
So most people would know who the celebrities are. What made that spot? I mean, there was a mix of celebrities, so it was young, middle-aged, old. What made that spot was Jeff Bezos.
Exactly. That's why I liked it.
Because he looks like an alien, and he, for him to make that cameo was brilliant. Was perfect, and he carried it off. He acted it perfectly.
That was probably my favorite part of the whole thing. Yeah. All right, so as we head into, just as we kind of wrap up here, what do you see for the future? You just mentioned that we're in the golden age of television, and which there's a lot of great shows being produced. You don't think necessarily the ads are kind of up to the quality of the golden age, but what do you see our viewers, our viewing habits are changing? What do you see as our viewing habits change? What do you see for these advertisements?
Remember, the Super Bowl is an anomaly. That's when a lot of people are actually watching television. Yeah. They're also Facebooking and doing other things, else, right? Yeah. But they're watching television. But you have to produce for so many different platforms. You have to keep in mind so many different platforms and how it will be used. So I think technically, everyone is doing a great job. The stuff looks nice. But the reality is that I don't think that the ideas have caught up.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Mr. Bellini. Appreciate it. It's always fun to chat with you. Okay. All right. I'm trying to keeping it professional here. Thank you so much, Dante.
Thanks, Mom.
Always great to get your input. Everyone, please hang tight as we get set up here for our next guest on GoLocal Live. We're going to talk to a local author. Hang tight with us.
Thanks.
Thanks. That was fun. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us back here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. I'm joined with local children's author, Denise Flagg. Denise, how are you doing?
Thanks, Molly. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm super excited to chat with you because you have authored the Klaus series. So 2 children's books here and hopefully more to come.
Hopefully more.
That's awesome. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the inspiration behind these 2 books. So why don't we start off by finding out a little bit more about you. Talk to me how you got into writing.
Well, I've always written from a young child poetry. And many years ago, our Rottweiler had passed from lymphoma.
Oh.
And my husband knew how much I enjoyed writing and thought it would be a good thing to write a children's book about our dog Klaus, which was a great light bulb moment. I was wondering why I hadn't thought about it myself. And we went ahead and started writing it. And it was a great way to go through the grieving process.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I bet that definitely would help. So talk to me a little bit about your dog, Klaus. Where did you get him? I heard he was pretty big.
Pretty big, 120 pounds, great personality, lap dog. That's why we wanted to write about him, just because he was just so human-like. And we had him just for a short time, about 5 years, and did about a year of chemo with him.
Wow.
Yeah, and we decided, when it was time that we couldn't do it anymore, and just wanted to do something going forward. I knew at some point I wanted to use the books to help animals in need. So I did tuck the book away, and many years later I decided to go ahead and self-publish, and found a great publishing company called Halo. They helped me out through the process. Great illustrator who worked for Disney for about 7 years when he graduated from art school, worked on some motion picture movies. So he did approve the book. We went ahead and started working on it, usually, basically through email. Told him what I wanted the illustrations to look like, and he did some illustrations. I approved them, and then I hooked up with the Providence Animal Shelter and decided to donate 10% of the shares to the Providence Animal Shelter, basically working with the nonprofit Friends of the Providence Animal Care and Control Center. So it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and we do fundraisers throughout the year, and I am at all of the fundraisers. We do one big one in October with Mario Hilario, who comes in and gives out the Compassion Award. He was the very first recipient of the Mario Hilario Compassion Award, which was named after him. And then smaller ones throughout the year. We'll be at the Da Vinci Center on April 29th and for our luncheon. And you can go right on their website, just Google Friends of the PACC to learn a little bit more about the process. And then I'm always doing events throughout the year. If you go on my website, deniseflag.com, you'll see where I will be. In April, I am going to be at the Sacred Heart Book Fair Authors Day.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I do small things throughout the year. I am a member of the Rhode Island Association of Authors, and we do a couple of events throughout the year as well.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that, like how you got involved and what support has been like with that, and more about your work volunteering as well, because as many people know, I'm also involved with Providence Animal Control, so that's why I kind of reached out to you and I was like, oh, this will be great because, we're big animal supporters here. Talk to me a little bit about Klaus, the character. So obviously he was based on, you got inspiration with your dog. I'm going to have you scoot over a little bit here, Denise. He was based on, you got inspiration from the pet that you had and kind of a cathartic response. But in the books, he interacts with animals and with people. How did you get the storytelling? Where did you get the stories for him?
Well, like I said, it was just a way to work through some grieving that I was going through, and he was so kind to other animals. Like I said, he was almost human-like. So I kind of honed in on that personality, and I want to do a book that was somewhat educational as well. So Closer's First Winter does speak about how the animals in the wild survive, especially in southern New England, during our crazy winters. And I wanted to just put it out there for the young kids to learn a little bit and touch a little bit on how they do survive in the cold months. We have a Sari Squirrel in the book, and Klaus learns about her hiding acorns and is very curious as to why she's hiding those acorns, and he does learn in the book why she is. Freddie Frog, who becomes dormant in the winter time, and Billy Bluebird, who migrates to the south to help keep him warm and have some food for him for the winter months. And then we went on to the second phase, which is Christmas with Klaus, to continue on that theme. Eventually, I'd like to do the 4 seasons and come up with the spring version and the summer version, which most likely spring will be out next year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Did you do any research when it came to putting these books together? What kids are interested in, or what the animals do? Did you do any research?
Well,
or did
I
you
researched the animals and how they survive.
Yeah.
Not so much research with the kids, but I did read the book to several family members and got their take on it, and they all liked it. I mean, when I wrote the book many years ago, I did have to tweak it years later. But yeah, just having children read it and get their thoughts on it before I actually self-published it.
Talk to me a little bit about the world of self-publishing, because we've had a lot of authors in here, and we've had author illustrators, and we've had children's book authors, we've had an assortment. And people say that it can be a tough go writing a book, so congratulations to you for writing 2 books. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like for you to go through the self-publishing process.
Well, self-publishing, it wasn't too hard because I did have a great publisher that worked with me, so that made the process very easy. What's harder is self-promoting.
Yeah.
Because when you self-publish, you have to self-promote, and that's a full-time job in itself.
Definitely.
So you got to get your name out there, and thankfully Molly had seen something on the internet about me donating the money, and called me to come down and invited me. So that is certainly a big help, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, well, you're very welcome.
And just like I said, getting the name out, being on Instagram and Facebook, and the more I'm exposed, the more money I can raise for the animal shelter.
So it's part of the proceeds from your books will go to the Friends of Providence Animal Care and Control. Why was that important for you to do that, to donate part of the proceeds?
Well, I am an animal lover, and I love books, so that's why combining both of them, a book about a dog and helping animals at the same time, was something that I had always wanted to do. and just being able to help those poor animals in the shelter. You know, what better way? For many years, I did volunteer at a family homeless shelter. For 10 years, I cooked breakfast and, you know, we prepared lunch and stuff like that. When the shelter closed, I was looking for something else to do, and I didn't think I could really go into the shelter per se because I was afraid of, you know, I would bring home every animal that was there. So we decided to just, you know, find another avenue to help out, which many people don't realize there are other avenues you can go through. You don't have to be right into the shelter, but you can find other ways to help the animals. So that's what I decided to do.
That's great. Well, I'm very excited for you. So the next book that you're working on is the spring edition.
Spring edition.
Talk to me. So it's my understanding you did find another pet after Klaus, right?
We did. We do have a rescue that we rescued. In fact, 6 years ago. Just last week we celebrated his 6th anniversary with us. We went from a 120-pound Rottweiler to a 13-pound Snoodle, which is pot poodle and pot schnauzer. Very different personalities. We did wait quite a while to get another dog because Klaus was so human-like that we knew that we would be in for a big surprise with another little one around. But he was rescued. He actually was 3 days away from being euthanized when a friend of mine scooped him out of a shelter. It wasn't a local shelter here, and she walked into my life with him, and he's been with us ever since.
Oh, that's great.
And at some point, I think I need to make a book about him too, so he doesn't feel left out. But I do read the books to our dog, Jax, and let him know all about his big brother. So hopefully I can work on something for him soon.
And maybe he can either have his own book or make his way into your series.
Exactly.
That's great. Well, Denise, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're interested, where do you like to buy your local books? Or where do you like to buy your books, I should say?
Well, you know what? I have my books right here in Providence at also at Barrington Books in Garden City. It's Barrington Books Retold and Books on the Square here in Providence.
Awesome.
So I shop there.
Awesome. I always like to ask people where they like to get their books from. Yeah. So you can catch Denise's books at either of those locations or a lot of other locations as well. And I'll put a link to her website on GoLocalProv.com so you can check it out if you're interested. And of course, again, part of the proceeds go to the Friends of Providence Animal Care and Control. And they do great work helping the animals at our city shelter. So always appreciated. Denise, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great to meet you. Keep up the writing. And of course, the illustrations are wonderful, illustrated by Chad Thompson. So
yeah, he did a great job.
We appreciate your time coming to chat with us today. Everyone, please hang tight as we get set up here for our next guest on Go Local Live. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien, and joining me is our friend Kevin Kalavy from Newport Vineyards. Kevin, thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to see you. So it's 2018, and if you're interested in improving your wine knowledge or increasing your education about wine, we decided to invite Kevin here to help us all on our quest or quench our thirst for wine knowledge. So Kevin is a sommelier, if I ever say that right.
You did, that was perfect.
All right, cool.
That was perfect.
And a 3-level WSAT certification.
Yeah.
You've been in the wine industry for 3 years and you're studying to become a master of wine. So he's going to fill us in on all things we should know as we continue that quest for knowledge on wine. And we're also going to talk about all the cool stuff happening at Newport Vineyards in the next couple months, because there's a lot going on.
There is a ton happening right now, absolutely.
There's a lot. Okay, so let's start with step 1. What are some easy ways that we can all just start to improve our wine knowledge?
Absolutely. So the first thing that happens with a lot of people is they find the one type of wine they like. They're like, oh, I found a Chardonnay. I love Chardonnay. And then they get stuck in, I'm going to drink Chardonnay forever. That's the only thing I'm ever going to drink. So the first thing you should do is just try other wines. When you go out to eat, don't be afraid to ask questions. Not every restaurant has a sommelier, but all the staff know the wines. So hey, say, I like Chardonnays that are oaky. Do you have something that's really oaky? Now, oakiness just comes from the fact that before the wine goes in the bottle, it spends some time in oak. Oak adds a flavor. There's tons of wines over the world that have oak. So don't be afraid to ask questions is thing number 1.
Okay.
Thing number 2 is just learn how to keep wine. There's actually ways to store wine and ways not to store wine. Backseat of your car on a hot summer day, not the best place for wine.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Yeah, don't keep it in a place that you wouldn't keep a human person for extended periods of time. But the one thing we get a lot is people are like, oh yeah, I keep the wine in the garage. And although, most garages are cool, if you ever have your car running in there, the heat can damage it.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, so keep it somewhere where the temperature stays consistent and cool, because wine is really like a living thing. So think of it like a living thing, treat it like a living thing. If it has a cork, like this bottle of Chianti right here, which is available at our restaurant Bricks by the bottle, and it's delicious. It has a real cork in it. So tip number 3, anything with a real cork in it, you shouldn't keep like this. You should keep on its side like this. Cork is organic, meaning it's made from living matter. So if it doesn't stay moist, it'll actually dry out and kind of fall apart. If it falls apart, all that cork's going to go in there. And when it does that, that means there's less cork here, stopping air and other bad stuff from getting in, meaning the flavor's going to change. It's called cork taint, or THC. It's not great. It's very unpleasant. It can make it smell like wet cardboard or wet dog. Not great. So that's why all wine bottles with cork typically want to store on their side. And the 4th thing I wanted to spell is don't just assume if a wine tastes fruity that it's sweet. So when you're trying different wines, if you go, ooh, I don't like Riesling. Riesling's always sweet. Riesling's my jam. I love Rieslings. Most Rieslings in the world are dry. They just have these really bright, fruity, expressive flavors. All dry and sweet is just a measurement of sugar. It's literally doesn't have sugar in it. If it doesn't have very much sugar in it, it's dry, but it can still taste fruity. So those are some of my basics. Just don't, trap yourself in. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Learn how to store wine, and don't prejudge a wine just because you have a belief about it, because oftentimes you can be wrong. Riesling can be some of the driest wine on earth. And this wine I have right here is an interesting one, so don't be afraid to try interesting wine. And the cool thing about this, Molly, I didn't even tell you, I haven't tried this yet. This is a brand new vintage.
Ooh!
Yeah, this is going to be my first time trying it on air.
Yes!
Exciting. So this is from 2017. So this is actually from last year, and this is the first wine we're going to release from last year's harvest. So the grapes came 2017, last year, and it's Gewürztraminer, which we've been sold out of for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Gewürztraminer sounds really funny. I'll tell you, pro tip, going to teach you one thing about wine right now. Gewürztraminer, Gewürz, that first part of the word, means spice in German. Traminer is a whole bunch of different kinds of grapes. So it's spicy grape. Doesn't mean it tastes like hot sauce, but it will have like a little bit of like a ginger kick. So if you don't mind, we'll do some tasting tips too. Yeah,
I like
why not?
it. Yeah. Let's do it.
If you want to drink on air, yeah, why not?
Yes.
Do a little bit, and we got a
Sample.
bucket, so if there's anything you don't want to drink, we'll happily give the wine to the wine gods in the bucket there. All right.
I think it's what I like about tastings the most is the fact that I get to talk to someone like yourself and learn more. So even if you're trying different things that you might not normally try, it's always fun just because you get a little bit of knowledge. So like whether you're going with a big group of friends or you're going on a date, it's fun just to go and try things that you might not necessarily like, but just so you can get an idea of like where it hits. You get an education. It's almost like going, whether you're doing a beer tasting, a wine tasting, a cider tasting, whatever it is, you get a little bit of education along the way. So you can ask questions, you're trying things, and then you can find out, okay, that is not for me, or okay, that is for me, and maybe I'll learn to like some more things like that along the way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rhode Island is booming right now with breweries, with wineries. All 50 states of the United States have wineries, and it seems like there's 50 breweries in every state because they're popping up. But yeah, people are willing to explore, learn. There's a science that goes into it. There's a craft. Yeah. And there are people who are coming out of college and are like, you know what? I like drinking beer. I'm going to turn it into a profession and actually put some love into it. So one of the big things about wine that you'll see people, they'll see them doing what I'm doing right now, which is swirling. And we do this only because it's fun. No other reason. No, I'm kidding. But they're doing two things. They're mixing air in with it. So I said air is bad over long periods of time, but a little bit of air will kind of like open up the wine. So we'll call them smell or aroma compounds to sound better. The stuff that makes it smell so beautiful can kind of bind together and stay towards the bottom of the glass. So you're just giving them a little gentle nudge to move up towards the rim of the glass so you can smell them better. And then you're gonna stick your stop. Oh wow, this has a lot going on, right?
Yeah,
there's
this
a lot.
Smells good.
Yeah, there's floral notes. You can already tell there's definitely rose petal. Smells a little citrusy.
So if you're out, at dinner or something, does it look good to do this, or does it look annoying if you're doing this?
I think it looks fine, and if you ask questions about it, if you don't even know why you're doing it, just like, this is kind of fun. You're like, I don't know, someone told me to do this.
It's appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely, and you don't have to. Not every wine needs to be swirled. There'll be some wines, like simple fruity wines, like some Barefoot Moscato. Yeah, you don't really need to swirl it. It's going to smell good. Probably going to smell the same after you swirl it.
Okay.
But some wines, older wines, this Chianti right here, definitely swirling and breathing, too, is another thing with wine. Letting a wine breathe means it's also been, remember, it's a living thing, right? It's been trapped in here. You need to give it some air back so that it gets to its old self again. So give it a little bit of time. When they say decant, you're really just mixing the wine with air, allowing the aroma compounds to open back up, move upwards towards the glass, or kind of just burn off some stuff that might have built up over time. So the most important part about tasting is my favorite part, tasting. So let's do that.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, here's to 2017.
That is very smooth.
Wow, that's even better than the past few years. Well done, George, our winemaker. That's delicious.
Good job, George. I'm a fan.
Yeah, you get the floral note. You really feel it on the side of your mouth. But the big thing is if you're like, I don't get floral notes, don't get orange notes, I don't get any of this.
I really like that.
Yeah, that's super good.
That's really good.
That's really, really good.
Good job, George.
He did an awesome job. Wow, no, this is really big. But if you don't taste it, there are different levels of taste buds. Some people have more taste buds than others. Some people have a more acute sense. And actually, my wife's a great example. She's a wonderful person, but she likes sweet wines.
She's a wonderful person, but she likes sweet wines.
No, and we looked into it, and she also can't drink black coffee because she has so many taste buds. Flavors seem so much more profound to her, so she likes it when it's a little sweet, because if it's a little dry, maybe it has high acid, that's more piercing. It's more aggressive to her. So that's a lot of people who like cream and sugar in their coffee too. They might be super tasters. You might find yourself to be a super person. But my wife is also adventurous. She will try dry wines. She even tries red wines, even though she doesn't like them, just because she has to put up with me.
So she has more taste buds, or they're just super sensitive?
They're more sensitive, basically what it is. Yeah, you basically have more attuned senses. There's 3 levels: your basic taster, your low-level tasters, and then super tasters. This is documented in a lot of books. By the way, if you're looking to get into the industry, my #1 thing to tell you is read. Lots of books, the Wine Bible, and especially Wine Folly, which is a great book by Madeline Paquette, and wine blogs. Check stuff out online. Just Google a grape variety. Be like, tell me more about Gewürztraminer. You'll find 100 articles online that'll give you really detailed information. YouTube's a great resource as well. If you're really trying to get into the industry, there's tons of videos on YouTube. There's TV shows, there's documentaries about sommeliers now. People think we're cool, so they make movies about us. Somm Into the Bottle. There's a show called The Wine Show on Hulu. So even if you're just interested in wine for fun, watch those. Or if you're trying to get more into it, watch those as well. I'm going to have another sip of this.
Yes, please awesome. Do. So I'll chat while you're taking another sip. This is really good. So if it was really cold, it would be like...
Yeah.
Just jump in it. I think it's really neat. So some people are just really interested in learning more and just becoming more educated, because I'm always trying to think, okay, what would be neat to, how do we improve ourselves as we move forward into 2018? So whether that is expanding on a new career, or whether that's just whether you want to find something that you're more interested, picking up a new hobby. So that's kind of why I want to talk to you when I was thinking about this segment.
Sure.
Or whether you just want to know about what you're drinking.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. That's
right.
important as well. Yeah.
Whether or not you want to know more about what you're putting into your body, which I always think is kind of neat as we are learning more about our food and beverage culture.
Yeah.
So this bottle is available now.
It's available tomorrow at Newport
Okay.
Vineyards, and we're going to start distributing it tomorrow. So if you're looking to do a tasting during the week, if you have a day off during the week, great time to go do a tasting at Newport Vineyards, believe me. And you'll get to be one of the first people to try this wine.
Oh, that's great. I know, because I haven't, you guys have been sold out for a while.
We've been sold out for a few months, yeah.
Yeah.
So just the differences in vintages and why that number on the bottle sometimes is important. 2016, just think of it, if you were in Rhode Island, what was 2016 summer like? Hot, dry. 2017, we had a little more moisture. So we got a lot more fruit out of 2017 than 2016, because being dry, you couldn't get as much production because there wasn't as much moisture. 2017, more production. Both going to be good quality, just different quantities based on the vintages.
Interesting. So as we talk a little bit more about wine education, then we'll get into all the events going on.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is so much going on
right now.
So thank you, Newport Vineyards, for letting him come over here, because
it's terrible, really.
getting him away from work. Let's think a little bit about red wine drinkers. So if you're totally into reds, you don't really like whites, let's focus on that for a minute.
Sure.
How can we increase our red wine knowledge?
Well, first and foremost, learn about body. So if you say Cabernet Sauvignon, and Cabernet Sauvignon all day long, again, there are other wines that have as much kick as Cabernet Sauvignon. If you're into Pinot Noir tends to be on the other end of the spectrum, body. That's really what defines red wine drinkers. They want either really, really strong flavors or light, delicate. White wine drinkers, often they're like dry, oaky, or sweet. But reds tend to all be relatively dry. There's not usually a lot of sugar in them, but they're light body to full body. So figure out what you like, and don't be afraid of other countries. Everybody probably does France, California, right? Those are the two places you go to. Don't be afraid of Spain. Spain is probably my favorite wine producing country, and they have red wines that run the spectrum. Specifically Rioja, which is a great region producing red wines that can go from like really, really soft to really, really intense, and it's all in the same region.
That's cool.
So for red wines like this, if you're like, okay, I don't really like Chianti, and you're thinking of the stuff in a basket with the big jug, yeah, that technically, that's Chianti, but that's unregulated Chianti. That's Chianti before they started getting all these funky wine turns. Italian wine labels are super intimidating, right? Look how many different words there are just on this bottle right here. You've got Chianti, Classico, Denomination, the Origin, the Controllata, and Reserva.
Yeah.
What is going on there? Okay, so Chianti is a region. Unfortunately, what the Europeans like to do, unlike us, where we say, it's Gewürztraminer. We put the grape right on there. We made it nice and easy for you. They'll put the name of the region. The reason for that is because maybe that region had a technique of blending different grapes that everybody's like, wow, your wine in that region is spot on. And they're like, okay, it's 14 different grapes. We're not going to put that on the label, but we'll put the name of the region.
Oh, that makes sense.
What happened in Chianti? All the neighbors got jealous. And they started making wine, and they called it Chianti. Say if it was Rhode Island making a Rhode Island wine, well, now all of New England's making the same wine and calling it a Rhode Island wine. Not so great, right?
Oh.
So then, a couple centuries later, they decided to put the word Classico back on. That means it's from your Rhode Island, your classic original region where we started that particular type of wine. With me? So the basic, where everything started, that's Classico, the premier winemaking region.
Wow.
This DOCG, this you'll probably see in a liquor store a lot, right? That on the label. So what this means in Italian wines, it's denomination, so origin, the controllata, the garantita. Guaranteed. So this is from an area that follows rules. It's a very strict set of rules.
Okay.
You have to grow the grapes like this. You can only grow so many grapes. You have to age it for a certain amount of time. And then the G, the Garantita, is actually the Minister of Agriculture, has a great job in Italy. They taste test all the wine. They taste test, so it's like tasted and approved. So DOCG means tasted and approved by the Minister of Agriculture in Italy, saying this stuff's top notch. So that's always a great sign. Isn't always going to be great, but it's a good sign. and then Reserva. So if you have like something that you say is like your reserve in your cellar, what do you think that's gonna mean? Like
It's just your backup.
your backup, you're saving it.
Yeah,
so if you're saving something, it means it's been there longer. So Reserva usually means that it's aged longer. Usually an extra year, like say Chianti Classico, it has to be at least aged for a year in the bottle or in oak or whatever before it's released. Reserva, they add another year on top of that. So that is one way, if you're buying red wine, especially Italian red wine, you can learn behind the label. The great thing about American wines is, though, oftentimes you'll see the name of the grape. French wines, same way, different terminology in each country. That's why people like me spend so many hours in classes. There's different things in Spain, in France, Australia, South Africa, Argentina, Chile. All these countries have different rules. But Italy is one of the hardest, and I just broke it down a little bit for you.
Yeah, and that's why I think learning about wine can be so intimidating. That's why I think a lot of people, when they find something they like, they just stick to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
They're like, okay, that's enough. I just will get this one thing. But you know, when you want to learn a little bit more, you want to expand a little bit and try other things that you like. So that's why this has been a fun conversation to have.
Absolutely.
And you just broke it down a little tiny sliver of it.
Yeah, one bottle. Just
that was one bottle, and I'm like, what?
Oh my god, so many things. Just know Classico means it's the place, the original place. Reserva means it's aged longer.
That's awesome. Okay, so before we let you go, we have to talk about all the stuff, all the really fun stuff that's happening at Newport Vineyards. Let's break down a couple things. A lot of the events that you have are already sold out.
Some of them, just a few.
So some of those are, but a big event that is happening coming up is the Winterfest weekend, which is so fun. It's a great event coming up.
Great time.
Coming up February 17th, right?
Yeah, February 17th is the day that we have tickets still available.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so talk to us a little bit about this. What's happening? What's going on?
So Winterfest is our annual event where we actually have an ice wine bar, we have expanded tastings, we have living essentials. It's basically a big winter party. January, everyone's been shut in and cold, but February, we just got past Valentine's Day. It's February vacation. There's Winter Festival in Newport. So we kind of tag on to that with our Winterfest. We have expanded tastings and food everywhere, live music. It's one of our most sought after events through the year. We'll have the new Gewürztraminer available. You'll get to try our ice wine if you want at a bar made out of ice that we have. We have ice sculptures. So it's just a great way to spend a Sunday or a Saturday if you bought tickets ahead of time, but we do still have some for the Sunday. So this is a big party.
And the ice wine's really good too.
Ice wine's delicious.
The ice wine's really good. It's fun. It's fun to have it if you haven't had it before. Put on some ice cream too.
Absolutely. Put on ice cream, put on fresh fruit.
Oh,
that's my favorite thing. And if I can offer one more wine tip, ice wine, people are like, oh, that's a sweet wine, right? So most people, the preconceived sweet or dessert wines, you just drink it and then you can't age it. Dessert wines are some of the best wines to age.
Cool.
Talking about wines that can age, basically they have to have a lot of something. If a wine has a lot of sugar, like a really lot, like an ice wine, it actually can age over time. As time wears away at us, right? We get older, we get a little less stuff, a little less in our body, a little less brisk in our step. If they have a tremendous amount of something, over time it'll still taste good and it'll actually develop more complex flavors over time. So sweet, very sweet wines. Actually, wines like Riesling that are high in acid, because they have so much acid, again, over time it develops notes. Wines high in tannins that might be really bitter, think like black coffee. When they're first bottled, 10 years later they're better. And wines that tend to be kind of high in alcohol tend to be age-worthy. That one's always on the fence, though.
Interesting. So what if you buy a bottle of ice wine and then you store it for a long time? Not open it and then store it.
Not in a garage or the back of your car. Yeah, ice wine will be good for years. So right at the front, it tends to taste like apricots and peaches. Years down the line, it'll taste like dried apricots and dried peaches. That's all that'll change. And you might get more like honey, more nutty flavors in white wines. Red wines tend to, again, dried fruits, dried strawberries, dried cherries.
That's so cool. So fun. Okay, so some other events that you have going on, something that stuck out to me is the Una Noche para Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is neat. So Friday, February 23rd, it's a dinner to benefit Puerto Rico. Really neat what's happening. Talk to me about that.
Sure. So it's going to be a nice party, and it's in conjunction with a lot of local Puerto Rican chefs. Our head chef, Andy Texera, has friends who are from Puerto Rico. He has a chef who's coming in, who's a friend from down there, to help with the menu. A lot of our staff has family in Puerto Rico. And the biggest thing is we're a food and beverage company, and we want to help out in the little small sliver of a way that we can. And the problem is there's still people who can't get hot meals in Puerto Rico. And one of the big things that this event is going to go towards, funds from this event are going to go towards helping people get hot food in Puerto Rico, because it's really, really troubling right now. It's going to go to the restaurateurs who are trying to rebuild so that they can feed people. There are people on the streets cooking for people. We're going to help them out with a nice big party that is really deeply connected to us, our staff, and it's going to be wonderful. So please come. Tickets are about $45, and everything that isn't going towards us buying the food is going towards Puerto Rico.
I think that's so cool. What a great idea, too, to help build a restaurant and to help get people out, back up on their feet, help them eating. What a cool idea. And I think that should be a really fun night.
Yeah, it's a deeply personal thing for us. I can't get over one of our staff member, Marie, says a cousin over there who owns a restaurant is trying to rebuild from the ground up. So it's really, this was really her idea along with Chef Andy to really try and help them.
I think that's just so cool. So that should be a good time. It starts at 7. You can get tickets on their website. So coming up, there's so many events.
There's so many things.
So
Yeah,
many
February
events.
is the best time. There's so much going on. We got our speakeasy soiree coming up, which is the 1 week before the Una Noche. And that's a big 1920s like flapper party. People come dressed to the nines like they're going to a speak. And last year was our first year we ever did this, and at one point it was one of the craziest things I'd ever seen in my life. 45 people just broke out spontaneously into a big swing dance, choreographed, and most of them didn't know each other. It just happened because they knew the song, and all of them kind of just went with it. So it's a great dance party. We have live music. Come dressed up. We have classic cocktails from the 1920s that we make. We have food that's from that era. And it's just a great time. It's such a fun party.
I feel like that era was just super fun. So to be able to dress up like that and have those music and those cocktails.
Yeah, I themed my wedding to the 1920s.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so I was really happy. I got married, and then we did this event, and I was like, well, I'm in the right place.
I'm in the right place at the right time. Also, you have another great Barrel of Laughs comedy event coming up with headliner Will Noonan.
Yeah, Will Noonan, who's been on Sarah Silverman, who's been on with Amy Schumer. Is going to be the headliner, and those are always fun. We got a bar. We set up our Meadow Room as a great night for the comedians. I actually have done stand-up comedy myself back in the day. These guys are way better than I ever was. Way better. And yeah, it's absolutely, we do them quite often. This one, Will Noonan's actually a really, really great catch, so come down and check him out. He's a very, very funny guy. And you can also come try a glass of our wine, enjoy, and laugh along with a glass of wine.
I mean, get some of this because
absolutely. It's super hard to pronounce. I know, it's super hard to pronounce. I say just say G and sneeze, and you're good. Solid.
Gazoon tight.
Yep.
Get some of this gazoon tight. And of course, you have all the other events, like the yoga events. You have
We have a scratch series now, which is a new thing.
Yeah, that looks so good.
Yeah, that's really cool. So the scratch series, the next one sold out, and we're going to be doing them monthly.
Okay,
except
so they're going to be monthly from now on.
Yeah, except in our busiest summer months when it's just bonkers. But yeah, it's going to be a monthly series in our catering kitchen with our chefs. You're going to go in and you're going to see how to make stuff. The next one we have tickets available for, I believe, is in March, and it's going to be cooking with beer. Also, the ones, I'm already looking ahead towards the ones that we have later this year. We have how to brine your turkey in November.
Cool.
We have all sorts of how to make gravies, how to make different fruit dishes, and each one you're going to be in the kitchen. You get to try this stuff. You get to watch the chefs make it. So those are really, really cool, hands-on, like classroom things that we're starting at the Vineyard.
That's so awesome. What a good idea. What a neat idea too. So I was looking at all the events. The scratch dinners look really good. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here today on GoLocal Live. Hopefully we've expanded your wine knowledge as we move forward in 2018. And if you're interested in any of the events, we'll have a link, of course, to Newport Vineyards online. So thanks so much for joining us. Business Monday starts here in just a moment, so stay with us on GoLocal Live. I appreciate it. I'm Molly O'Brien. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.